Welcome to the Right People, Right Places podcast. I'm your host, Raul Mendoza, and I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Tushar Pandit here today. We're going to be talking about the topic of leading with insight and leading with care. Tushar is someone that has 20 plus years of experience in the people and operations space. Currently, he is the Chief People Officer here at Spins, making it happen. And he's been in all kinds of environments in his 20 plus year career. He's been with large companies, startup company, and everything in between, and has just a wealth of experience and insight that he's able to offer in just building out just successful talent acquisition, successful people operations, building culture. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, Tushar.
Thank you, Raul. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to our time, and hopefully there will be some good takeaways for the team when they get to hear this.
Very good, very good. And well, let's just kind of kick in before we get into the subject that we are going to be talking about here. But tell us a little bit about yourself. I kind of gave a broad swipe overview, but you just recently made a shift here in your career, coming back to Chicago from Tennessee. And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I've been in Chicago, and I got the chance of moving down to the South for a little bit with another great startup as well. And the opportunity with Spins came up where I was already thinking about coming back here. There are roots over here for me as well, with family and friends, and of course colleagues, where you and I connected way back at CDK.
That's right.
So got the chance of coming back, and it was a great opportunity because, with Spins, we really are a mission-centric organization that is focused on good for people, good for the environment, good for our pets, on so many different fronts as well. But more importantly as well, it's still very much a data science organization for wellness products within the CPG industry. So, it's really about the best of both worlds. It's an alignment of both personal and professional values, and coming to do great work at a midsize within the PE world. It is where I'm comfortable with. So it was it was not that hard. But it was one that felt the right thing for me to do at this time as well. It's been a journey. I think it's a journey for everyone.
Right.
When you say 20 plus years, I always have to sit back for a second and pinch myself and say, where has almost 25 years gone by? I still remember that I was just starting out, like most of us, in my first HR opportunity after out of school, and then just really getting all of the great chances and working with phenomenal leaders. That has taken me this journey to do everything from global HR to domestic HR to regional HR, startups, midsize, large public companies. And apart from just continuous gratitude as to I'm here, but really having the opportunities of working on great things, being allowed to stretch myself even when perhaps I thought I was not able to do it. And now it's making sure that not only for the team that I get the opportunity of leading, but always focusing on paying it forward for our next generation of leaders across the organization, but certainly for everyone who's coming into the people/human resources space,
yes,
as young in career, as young future leaders, and certainly as the next senior HR executives. That's all of us are going to be needing in a time where organizations and the world, along with industries, are changing rapidly, perhaps even more than when we were starting out, because we thought things were fast then. It's a whole nother world and a whole nother pace where we are today.
Absolutely. No, thanks for that overview. And I mean, even in what you're saying, you just kind of embody this idea of leading with care and leading with insights. I think, even just in what you expressed there, wanting to give back to the next generation, wanting to give the richness of what you've been able to experience in your journey and pass that along. And yeah, we are in a time of incredible change, and you've seen a lot of change being with different organizations. But as you said, this is unprecedented. I mean, the speed and pace at which business moves these days, it's hard. It's hard to, you got information coming at you a million miles an hour. Yeah, I was just kind of researching this the other day. We were in the information age, and we're very quickly moving towards the data intelligence age. I don't even know why I was looking into that, but that's where we're going. Mm-hmm. It's all about data and science and being able to leverage insights to move business forward. And that's part of the acceleration is the pieces of data that we have now. We have things that have incredible implications in how we're going to proceed. And even more so now than ever, it's so important to, be data driven, but also be caring about people, using that data to actually put people in the right places, and give people the tools and the career path or the pathway towards success. I think part of the information age is information overload, right? Now we've got very intuitive data to help us move forward, but now it's building the muscle of thinking and actually, what do we do with this data? What do we do with this insight? So tell us a little bit about that philosophy. I think, when we were talking, you had brought this idea of leading with care and leading with insights. And I think it's something that I would love our audience to hear from you on this and benefit just from your years of experience kind of developing this principle and this approach to people and growing companies.
Yeah, well, happy to. And I think it begins with no matter what the size of the organization is, or no matter what the industry or space any company is in. I always like to say that a Mac or a PC does not create the results for an organization. You need the people in order for the talent to shine through. The talent within that ecosystem of what we call a company or an organization is coming up with the ideas, is coming up with the strategies, is coming up with the operating plans. How are we going to implement, overcoming the challenges? And this happens in teams, and this happens in companies across the board. And so, to your point, when we say that there was information overload, and that information overload is not changing and it's not stopping. Right. There are days and moments we all sit back and say, can I just get 5 minutes? But even then, the first wheel inside
wheels
the brain
are turning, right?
is not stopping, is continuously turning. Part of all of this is where we are now at a time where you've talked about, it's no longer about the information, it's about the insights, and it's about the AI, and it's about the era, and what are we trying to find from all of these? Mm-hmm. Where we have to keep in mind is that the implications, and as we implement or as we analyze, or when we are looking at the insights that are coming through, there's a direct hit, there's an indirect hit to people. I was asked this question, what is it that's keeping you awake? Like so many leaders, whether you happen to be a CEO, whether you're a CMO, whether you're a CFO, it doesn't matter what the functional leadership is specifically. And the one thing that keeps keeping up, AI is already happening. Right. It's already happening faster within companies and industries than any one of us. And this analogy of, I guess I'm still designing the menu as the chefs are all cooking away in the kitchen is still applicable. But here's the part. Where are we going back to find the programs, finding the solutions to help reskill this talent that we all are implementing all of the AI? Right. There are no resources available. There are no references available. This is just in time. I mean, we talk about in lean principle, just in time manufacturing, just in time leadership. This is the just in time for the 21st, heading into the 22nd century. And it's happening at a pace where we cannot even stop to think for those 5 minutes and saying, let me come up with a solution so that, because by the time you do that, something else is already in there. Right. And so it's not about just immediately thinking for a second and saying, well, there's something that available that we can go and look at, or don't worry, I can go back into the marketplace and find this talent. All of us are in the same boat. There isn't, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but there are not dime a dozen available AI certified professionals in the marketplace that you can tap into. You can do that for an MBA. You can do that for finance. You can do that for marketing. Because this is so new, right? And it is extremely competitive globally, not only here. So it isn't that you can just very quickly for a second and say, maybe I'll go over like we were doing in the 1990s, like we were doing in the 2000s. I can go to another marketplace in another atmosphere of the organization, in another part of the world, and then I can bring in the people over there. So that is where, how are we going to be able to do this? And when you then have to come to the solution and say, that means that the current talent that I have, how do we try to do this? That's what the solution is going to be. Right. But where do you go and get that done from? So that is a challenge. That is something that we absolutely need to be aware of. Right. And as we bring in the insights, the concept of people should never be gone at the end of the day. So how do you care? And caring is not about coddling. Yep. Caring is about making sure that our teams feel they've got everything that they need in order to make themselves successful, for them to be successful in being that effective team player so that the team succeeds collectively. Correct. And when all the teams are collaborating and working towards the same thing, focusing on the North Star, that's where you deliver your results, where the company is successful for both top and bottom line. Right. That is a key thing that we have to do. And so when you bring it all together, for me, it has always been, okay, I got the data, what it's telling me, understand this, but not understanding the downstream impact to the people. Somehow for me, when I was going through all of this, was a missing link in saying, so one day in a meeting, I said, well, we have to lead with insights, because everything we do is a number. In this day and age, you cannot have it without that. Yeah. Whether it doesn't matter what you do. But the care has also got to be there. And when you demonstrate that care to people, to your peers, to other leaders, that does become part of the culture that you wish to have. Because even when you are implementing tough decisions, even when you are delivering tough messages, that care element has to be the foundation. And when you miss that, the other downstream impacts of where your business decisions are getting implemented, with the insights or even with the data, will give or become much more challenging.
Right. No, that's wonderful. I appreciate that context and background. It's challenging. It's challenging. Things are moving so fast, and to be able to take information, but also in the midst of that just-in-time leadership that you mentioned, that really stood out to me. Two things stood out to me. You talked about just-in-time leadership, and you talked about teams. And I think, organizations are a collective of teams. They are a collective of people, and if you have healthy teams, you have a healthy organization. Just like if you have healthy cells in a body, you've got a healthy body. Right. It's functioning the way it's supposed to. When you don't have healthy teams, that's when you run into problems. And how do you have healthy teams? Well, care. I think you so beautifully expressed that idea of care. And, you can have information until it's coming out of your ears, but it's not going to land with people if they don't know that the bedrock is care. Like, look, we're not here to coddle you. This is business, right? Like, we have to get things done, but are we giving you the tools you need? If you're not getting the tools, what do you need? Let's talk about it. Let's have open dialogue. So I think actually those two things really stood out to me. And it kind of makes me want to go in a direction to ask the question about just how do you, what are signs of a healthy team? What do you look for in healthy teams as you're building teams throughout an organization? What are characteristics? Let's start there. What are characteristics of a healthy team? And, that are essential to having teams that actually drive bottom line results, but also are people that care for one another and care for the organization.
Everything I'm going to say is not new. All of us have this information.
Yes.
The one thing that I always try to say is that, I'll use this as an example. It's one of the things that I like to coin because I love acronyms, and I always said it's DC squared. And usually people are like, "What are you talking about?" So there are two concepts that exist, right? And they're buzzwords. The first one is going to be collaboration. Oh, we are collaborating. And I've always said that, if you really want to know collaboration is taking place, you need to demonstrate that. We are still human beings. The 5 senses still apply. Mm-hmm. I love technology just like the next person out there. But yeah, some things technology will never be able to do. I have to be able to observe. I can sense it. I can touch it. I can feel it. I can hear it. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about demonstrate collaboration, the focus is on demonstration. Yes. It's no longer about being collaborated because words are easy. Proving it is a different story. And when you deliver on commitments, which is the other 2 DC, that's why I call it DC squared, again, you're getting to see all of this. So when we talk about what are characteristics of great, healthy teams, it's still very much the things that have allowed us to do it.
Yes.
Are we respectful to each other? Do we watch our tone and delivery? Are we not interrupting each other? Do we start our meetings on time? Right. Do you know how much that still pops up whenever you go and speak to everyone else? Or how many times are your meetings ending on time?
Right.
Do you have a set agenda? Is every voice heard? Are people taking up too much airtime? So those things are still very real. Mm-hmm. You take it to the next level, excuse me, where leaders are not only developing their talent, but they are demonstrating vulnerability. They are demonstrating self-awareness. Mm-hmm. They are allowing to be challenged. They are focused on, it's about the what, not the who.
Right.
It is about making sure that teams collectively are as active members of idea creation, idea ownership,
that's good.
Achieving success, and then recognizing that accordingly. Those are the marks of a healthy team being led by a healthy leader, because it is making sure through behaviors that are demonstrated, that are visible, where it's not about the ego, it's not about the who, yes. It's not about the agenda that is very different. It's tied to OKRs, it's tied to the goals, it's tied to the organization values. It's what does good look like? All of the things that we have learned and we talk about and every organization is aware of, it's how are we practicing it and making sure that the practice is happening day in and day out. It can't just be the flavor of the month or because we're doing this because 4 weeks next out, the engagement service is coming out. It is the muscle and the habit we build day in and day out. And when those behaviors are not demonstrated, how are people being held accountable? Are people aware from the very beginning of potential consequences?
Right.
There's this analogy that sometimes at work, it's very similar as raising kids. There's a reason why we say that. And when, you may be 12 years old, and because we've all heard this, every parent has said that don't put your hands on the hot stuff. Right. Somehow, some way, there's always a rebellion nature in all of us, and we try to test it out. When we do test it out, we are going to get, I'm never going to do that again. That was the reason why mom and dad were telling me that, right? When behaviors are not called out, and that's when I talk about candor, when you potentially cross the line or you're taking up too much time or whatever the case is, and when a peer doesn't give you feedback, and we can get into all of that as well, those are the signs of healthy teams because they are being held accountable by the peer. Feedback is a gift.
Yes.
And people who care are going to give you feedback so that your awareness is raised. If you don't know, there's a little bit of lettuce between your teeth until someone tells you, right. Why is that? because they care.
Yes.
And when that feedback is not provided, those could be for several reasons. Either people don't care, it doesn't mean the same to, or people are not looking for that change for us to be that successful team. And you want to find out then why that is the case.
Right.
The teams that are very healthy and are extremely successful, they truly believe in being peers that care each other, will, without a doubt, hold you accountable to the team.
I love it. Oh my gosh, there's so much there. It's rich. I think that is the fundamentals of building team right there. I think, and like we said earlier, teams are what make up organizations. And I love how you broke that down. You went back to the leader. And it's interesting because we talk a lot about leadership, right? Leadership has, and it could almost, we talk about it so much. There's so many different books out on leadership that it can almost wash over us. And we don't realize that there's an ROI to good leadership and within organizations. In fact, in some ways, I feel like there can be a crisis of leadership in our organizations nowadays. I think there's need for more leadership development, but it starts with the leaders. It starts with the leaders of organization. It starts with people, obviously you want everyone within the organization to be leaders within their own right. But it really starts with those that are at the top, leading by example. Going back to this topic of teams, the leader needs to lead themselves correctly. They need to be demonstrating the behaviors, the accountability to results. They got to be accountable to themselves. And in fact, what they are in leading themselves, like you're saying, is that the team is a mirror of that. If they're not demonstrating those activities, those behaviors, their team are going to reflect that. And I think the way you said that was so helpful. I think, and I think we need to think more about teams. I think.
Not only on that aspect of it, even if you take it one step further, it's how are you thinking about people collectively, generally, let alone the people on your team, right? And we have said this so many times, and when we talk about leadership development, we try to take it to the next level, and that is that it is all about coaching at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. How many of us have been, when we're going through school, we are played on teams, and there isn't only one head coach, there are several coaches. And why are coaches so committed to you? They are looking to help refine and enhance that muscle and build those new habits in you so that you truly can shine and be that star that you are, where you do end up crossing the line first. I mean, that is the objective, and hopefully breaking records. Whether you are running, whether you're swimming, whether you're on football, whether you are on soccer, it doesn't matter what you do. Why we don't do that same rigor and discipline in work environments, appreciate everything has a cost associated with it, is still very much a challenge. And the way you try to do that is, it's not only about the results. The results to me are the after effect of how you set it up to ensure that the nucleus will deliver what it is. And what I mean by that is you as a leader at the end of the day have to ensure how you are showing up. I've had to learn that the hard way as well. We all do. Leadership is a journey, and you are a very different leader when you are coming out of school at 22, 23. You then evolve as a leader, whether you become your first-time manager level or when you're in your 30s, whether you're 40s. And when you are in your 90s, you're still a leader, but it's a different journey at that point in time. Mm-hmm. What you say is there, but it is not what is going to be the thing at the end of the day that's going to matter. Right. How you said it, the delivery, the tone, that feeling of I was being spoken with and not to. There's a clear distinction between the two.
Yes.
When there is that partnership of feeling, that's how leaders show up. When there is a mistake and you very clearly say that I was wrong, those simple words or thank you, great job. These things are not new. They are still very much from the 1970s and the 1980s. But the power they have, I don't know even if I can quantify the power they have. But what you will see very quickly is that you will have a team and people who want to be with you, who are asking you to even lead them to achieve greaterness.
Yes.
And even furthermore, because we all want to know at the end of the day for ourselves, whether you're a leader, whether you're not, do I have fulfilling work? Am I achieving things that I am getting better at? Do I have an opportunity to take on the next challenge, to pursue my career next?
Mm-hmm.
That's what people are. And I want to keep getting better and better and better. And when we don't give feedback and we don't coach, how do people get there? You know, we talk about frequent, regular, meaningful feedback.
Yes.
And yet at times we as leaders are shying away from being open and honest.
Correct.
There shouldn't be that fear. No one's expecting to be told you're perfect. It doesn't exist. Perfectionism has never existed. Yet there is, well, I am perfect. And I hear that and I'm like, let's talk about that, because you will take that to the end moment of your time or your life on this planet and you will still not have achieved perfectionism. So why do we focus on things that are unrealistic, or rather just change the word and saying, maybe what you're trying to say is you're striving for excellence.
Right.
And you see the value and difference in both, same objective.
Yes.
But this now becomes achievable and I can help you get this and you will shine even further because you are now pursuing excellence.
Right. And it's together, right? We're doing it together. It's not just the leader mandating it. It's not just, hey, you got to do what I say. It's we're doing this together. And I think everything rises and falls on good leadership within teams, within organizations. Individuals will rise or fall to the level of the leadership that's before them. And I think I love that mindset and approach, because it's not about, okay, these are the numbers we need to hit. But let's look, these are the numbers. If we can achieve this, it's going to have this kind of impact in this community. It's going to have this kind of impact with this demographic. Like, being able to inspire and actually connect it to mission, which is another reason why, I love the work that Spin is doing, just that wellness, connecting it to mission, connecting it. Okay, here's this data for us to be able to leverage so that we can be better, So anyway,
it's true. And when you have that, and this is where you pull you in, and this is where the people who then are that true talent, and that is your ROI. So how do we want to get this done? That's the involvement. Mm-hmm. Your people are setting that cobblestone path for us to get there.
Correct.
They are the experts. Any leader can have the best strategies in the world. But if you do not have the right talent to design it and to implement it, good luck.
It's a lost cause, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, this is a great segue even into this. I love how we went deep there with teams, with people, with talent. We talked about soft skills there. We talked about hard skills there. Again, it's the combination and blend of all of these. But now, just kind of zooming out now and kind of looking at the landscape of where we're at and looking at this issue of change. So how do we change? How do we move as an organization? At the micro level, this is what a team should look like. So, and function. So now at a kind of zooming out 10,000 foot view, how do we navigate through change as organizations?
Well, I think it's very different depending on the size of organizations, mm-hmm. right? Change with a 300,000 person global company is extremely different than change at a 640 startup level C organization, right? So I think that change, like everything else, should be compared apples to apples, not pineapples to apples, I would like to say, right? I mean, so that is always going to be something that has to be taken into context. Mm-hmm. Second element of that should always be that I would say that I like to approach it in such a way, whether it is from an organizational perspective or from a leadership perspective, is that it's starting to lead with that to say that no one likes change.
Right.
I mean, call it for what it is. If that was the case, then we wouldn't be living in this world of technology anymore. I mean, we would still be a little bit of the society collectively would still be part of the industrial revolution, where work starts at a certain time and work ends, and nothing happens after that. So, I by admitting that change is something that most just generally don't like, I think allows people to appreciate that, okay, at least that has already been acknowledged, because it's true. And when people are usually like, I love change, it's like, come on, we let's just all get real and we know who we are, because no one likes to have the cheese moved. I mean, there's a great reason that book exists, right? Who moved my cheese? Which is a great thing as well. I mean, I love my cheese, so we won't talk about it, but that's a whole different topic. Where change usually, as we know this, is it's always answering this question: why is this change happening?
Yep.
How is this change going to happen? What's the impact to me?
Mm-hmm.
What's in it for me? And because we are always in this fast-paced mode, we got to this, and if I don't finish this off by now, then I got to finish off that thing, and there's just a list of priorities.
Mm-hmm.
When change management happens, I think we have taken sometimes. We are causing us to forget the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to what we started talking about.
Yes.
How are we forgetting that we're not dealing with machines? How are we not forgetting that we are dealing with people?
Yes.
We have to stop and think for a second and say, did I give the context? Does everyone on the team know why we are thinking about this? Is this going to be a surprise? That's another thing. Who likes a surprise?
Right.
I am not interested in finding out any adults who like surprise birthday parties. Everyone knows our milestones coming. Kids love birthday surprises. Bring a lot of these analogies that we use in our own personal lives into the workplace. And when you have time to stop, to reflect, that's when you're turning around and saying, okay, so this change is coming now. So what do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Who do I need to get involved with? We forget, and I have done this myself at times, and you would think being in HR, we're supposed to be, as good experts.
You guys are supposed to be change experts.
Correct.
Right?
But this is what I'm saying. Time and the pace is what's causing it. We need to force ourselves to stop, think about this, ask, get a second opinion, and then make sure that people are brought in, people are involved, and once all of that is there, then the change is going to happen. Another critical thing, more than ever before, voluntarily and proactively talking that change is coming is key.
Yes.
Just take the example of AI. Not even 12 months ago, maybe 14 now, would have anyone thought about the impact of AI that is here today, right now,
Yes.
that is only going to continue to further expand. The change is going to happen. The change is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we can help people see the positives, start to say what are and how are we going to address the challenges of AI as well, are going to help further confidence, further comfort, further appreciation.
Yes.
But resisting and thinking about the negatives are not going to be helpful individually or professionally or collectively within the industry, within companies, or within our markets at the end of the day, because it's not stopping and it doesn't intend to stop.
Right. It's so true. I think that actually flows very well into this just whole conversation about, 30 years ago, you could maintain in a career. Those days are long gone.
Yes.
And I think one of the positives that AI has introduced into our business world and into life in general is it's actually, I think there's been so much fear around AI and it taking people's jobs and this type of thing. However, I think the thing that I'm seeing is it's not here to do our job for us. It's here to enhance our ability to do our job and actually bring value to people and organizations. And I think, I'm glad that we're kind of on the other side of this now with AI, that, as people have processed this, and there's still more to process, but, the days of maintenance are over. We have time and space because technology is here to be thinkers, we're not, the days of going into a job and doing what you're told, it's nowadays, it's like, what do you think? How can you bring value to organizations? So, I'd love to hear your thoughts and commentary on that. Just this idea of maintenance just being dead, right?
Yeah. Maintenance, you've said it well. The days of maintenance are absolutely done. Look, we are in a time and a place where they are geopolitical factors we have to address.
Yep.
They are both macro and microeconomic factors we have to address. We have got interest rates that we have got to address. We have got customers who have great choices, who can take their business at several options. So every organization is ensuring that the customer experience is absolutely spot on and managed end to end, because no one is interested in customer churn at the end of the day.
Right.
That absolutely applies for us in the world of people and talent as well. The employee experience, if we can deliver this fast, how are our talent going to deliver the customer experience? So there's a further enhanced appreciation on that as well.
That's good.
Why does someone want to come and work for you?
Mm-hmm.
The concept of you having a validated employer value proposition is needed now more than ever before. Mm-hmm. And just because I arrived doesn't mean I'm going to stay. Right. So tell me again why exactly I'm going to stay. We talk about turnover. We will talk about exit interview. How about that? Take the concept of what our great marketing partners do when they're having marketing focus group sessions. They are going and finding out, what is it about this brand? What is it about this new product? We in people operations have to take a very clear strategic approach to turn around and say the same thing. Why are our talent staying over here? What exactly is it that we are hitting the mark on? And what exactly are we not missing, or rather missing the mark on, that we need to solve for? Maintenance is no longer acceptable, because at the end of the day, every single team, especially in 2004, that started in 2023, tight budgets, limited resources, headcount and resources are not available as perhaps they may have been.
Right.
Enterprise value has to be created across the board.
Yep. Doesn't even matter the size of company anymore.
Doesn't matter whether you're private, whether you're public, whether you're just a startup, whether you're an entrepreneur where you've only got yourself and maybe two other people. Enterprise value, margin, growth, both top and bottom. Even when customers and net new customers are not coming along, all of those metrics are still being expected to be delivered on. And so when we talk about AI, when we talk about in the world just of how it's impacting in talent acquisition, you're an expert in talent acquisition, but when you go and speak to teams, mm-hmm. well, I'm chasing for follow-up interviews, or I'm chasing scheduling. And to your earlier point, now what happens when AI can take a lot of that away from you?
Yes.
Rather, you are focusing on the interview feedback, on the assessment selections, and not only the speed to get the candidate on board, but rather now you can turn around and say how quickly not only can they arrive, but now we can start to get them so that productivity or time to productivity increases sooner and faster. It completely changes the discussion. It completely changes the expectation of where a talent acquisition partner now, along with your people partner and that hiring leader, are now absolutely trying to solve for results in a faster, quicker manner way, where there's going to be success collectively. What AI is trying to achieve and also help is it's also managing and monitoring where your causes of delays are, where you can fix those, and how fast you can fix them. But also at the same time, what I like to say is that it's taking away a lot of the recording capability.
Right.
We are typing notes when we're interviewing, or I'm writing this. It's allowing me now to have more of an engaged opportunity,
Right.
where these recordings are recorded now, and I now have a reference point to go back before I make the decision.
Right.
Or when I have the second leader or the third leader interviewing, I now can go back and look at the entire thing end to end versus chasing. Let's have a touch point. So these things are allowing us to become much more effective.
Yes.
And in order for us to achieve efficiencies, greater impactful results, that is where, to me, AI is now really starting to be a great partner for us.
Yeah. I love it. No, that's so great. I mean, I love how you kind of even threaded that idea of leadership through that, like, again, you as the leader embracing that change and actually utilizing these tools to actually bring value, the value that we talked about, this idea of maintenance, and the days of maintenance being gone, because these tools are now in place that we're paid to think and to bring solutions to problems, and so we're problem solvers. I think there's never been a time, I think, in history where people can wake up and solve problems, because the minutia of administration and operations can very well be taken care of by AI. Again, with this idea of leadership, I just kind of want to touch into how you personally as a leader how do you tackle problems? I know that we were talking about a story here, even in recent conversations, about your previous company and just, an exchange that you had with a leadership team. And tell us about that.
Well, it's never, you have to do your part at the end of the day when you're coming in. One of the things that I've always said to my team is problems are never going away. Mm-hmm. And what I want you to always feel is that we need to talk about these problems. But I know you are also creative, and so I want you to come with your potential solutions to the problems as well.
Correct.
I don't have all the answers, nor do I have a desire to have all the answers. I don't know everything, nor do I have a desire to know every single thing. When you want to be able to demonstrate the capability of continuous learning, remaining curious, asking questions, when we talk about leadership, you've got to also set the same environment for your team when they know they should be able to come in and challenge even what you are saying and having the freedom to do so. And one of the things that I start with whenever I have my team or whenever I join a team is they very quickly know that it's a concept of what I call permission leadership, which I actually borrowed from B School, which is called permission marketing.
Yeah.
When you receive an ad or you're being promoted about a product or a brand, you have given permission for that brand to be marketed to you. I just took that concept and I've given it to my team to say, I call it permission leadership. That means you have all the right to challenge, you have all the right to disagree, you have all the right to debate. At the end of the day, we're going to always look at the one win-win. But all I ask is once we make the commitment, we all deliver accordingly. We at that point in time, all of this, that noise or chaos that we want to, that cannot happen, because then we are not being true to each other or ourselves. And so that is the one thing that I will not be okay with. And so the team knows that when they're coming with problems, it just becomes a habit for them. They're like, and here are the two things, how I would go about solving for it. And I love that, because it's telling me that the individual or my team or my people are coming in over here and saying, this is how I think I should approach it. Mm-hmm. And as we all know, 95% of the times, they're spot on. Right. They know exactly. If there isn't, what I always want to do is I'm going to ask them, well, I'm in agreement. Do you want to know how I would approach it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's always great that way, because if I'm asking, then they know that I'm just going to give them to them how I would tackle it. In
Correct.
That way.
Yeah.
And so that allows them to then have the decision-making power to say, I like that. When we are solving for project and when there is project design on the whiteboards happening, we as leaders have got to remind ourselves that part of coaching is, especially when you've got young talent, young in career talent, it is our responsibility to develop them, not do it for them.
That's right.
And the biggest thing that we have to do, that means that they are going to make mistakes.
Yes.
Well, do you want to talk about how many mistakes I made? Because last time I checked, I was not born with a PhD. And I did not get everything right the first time around either. And so it's, again, our awareness and making sure that when that happens, people realize that that mistake was because I failed and I tried and I gave it my all. Everything that we talk about sports coaching, then those behaviors need to be applauded.
Right.
People cannot be put down for that.
Yep.
And so my team knows that when it is a mistake, that is the end result because they have learned something through that, or it's their first time and they are stretching through all of that, that will be applauded and commended for. Because I'd rather have you do this than completely try to just always never, ever, ever or operate in the world of fear, because that is not healthy for anyone. Right. And you will never come out of that. So problem solving has never, ever not been there. It's how it needs to be. The final thing that is a litmus test for all of us, the way we operate within our teams is, again, it's about the what, not the who.
Yes.
And is it tied to our values, how we behave against those values, and the organizational strategy? Because if it's not tied to those three things, then why are we focusing and doing this?
Yep.
And we cannot behave in a way that it is not going to help us move forward. And so that laser focus should never be moved away, irrespective of what the project or the problem is being worked on. As long as those three key things are always the must-have ingredients, over time people start to see that this is the way, what I like to call the Spins way, or this is how we operate, this is how we behave. And the final piece to that is, especially when you have new members joining your team.
Right.
They are now getting to observe and see and learn that this is the operating method, but more importantly, the behaviors of how this team operates collectively. So I am aware of what is expected of me and how I get to contribute.
Yes, that's so good. That is just rich. I mean, that's how you operate as an organization, but it also serves as an onboarding for people that are coming into the organization. So these ideas need to be in place. You know, that again, can you repeat those three things again? What were those three things?
They are absolutely our values. Values are demonstrated through behavior. So they're just not words on a wall.
Yep.
People have to act and behave every single day to demonstrate those values. And then our organizational strategies.
Yes.
What are the goals or the priorities for this year? Because when you cascade them, your team is built on those. And then every individual's OKRs are built on those. So when you're focused and driving towards that, then you now have your three must ingredients that everyone is not only focused towards, but how the operation is taking place. And that goes back to what we were talking about.
Yes.
You as the leader have got to do all of this.
Right.
You know, when you stated that there's tons and tons of leadership resources, tons and tons of great books and all of that, there's only so much time that all of us have. But the number one thing is just walk the talk.
That's absolutely right.
That has never gone away.
Right.
So do what you expect of everyone else to do. And when people see you doing it day in and day out, customer by customer, it's just going to automatically become the Spins way, or your DNA, or your operating model that you have created for your team, because everyone knows that you're holding yourself accountable to the same standards that have been established for all as well. You know, you're at our campus over here. Everyone can see the beautiful skyline from River North in Chicago at the background. I had my entire team over here for the last 2 days. We were focusing on our second half of 24's deliverables, where our initial first 25 priorities are going to set in through. And just really, it's a new team. We're all coming together. So there was a lot of that was taking place. And, you know, you can't see because it's all wiped out. 17 priorities. And then, you know, but prior to arriving over here, each one had a say as to what they wanted to see on the agenda.
I love it.
They got to select where they were going to be focusing on, you know, the key KPIs that are coming out of it that were derived from the KFAs that they select. So you have to allow for that incubation to take place. Again, there are many of your the audiences who are hearing this. I am not saying anything that's new that no one else is not doing there. What I do say though is it can't just be talked and forgotten about.
Yes.
Leadership at the end of the day and production or productivity or performance at the end of the day is discipline and rigor day in and day out. Right. Why is Jordan one of the best athletes out there? You name each and every one of the sport and go in and ask them, and they will be the very first one. Let me tell you how many shots I missed. LeBron says the same thing as well. David Beckham says the same thing. Name the sport and find the great athletes, and they'll tell you, but discipline, rigor, practice, day in and day out. Repetition, and these things are why you achieve great success. And when you do them, and it starts from the very top, that's how you build great cultures, even within your team. But the energy, and I'm telling you, in my last organization, you asked for this example, and I'll stop over this. It was just really specific about the leadership aspect of it. Brand new member joined right out of school, and I'm talking about this, and this is where you start to feel your age. And very quickly, they're like, oh, I can solve for this very quickly for you. Boom, boom, boom. It was about registering all the attendance for a training program that was coming through. And immediately, in less than 2 hours, all of the stuff was done within Microsoft Forms. Forms had just been launched within the Microsoft world. Someone who was very new to it was like, okay. I was so excited. Why? Because someone new on the team took this concept, taught me. Yeah. That pleases me when I learn from my team, offer new solution that I was not aware of. And the best part about this is it was automated and already implemented, even without being asked. So that's what you get to see when you have fresh blood, new perspectives, but a member who knows that we all have an active role to play in order for this entire team to succeed.
Totally. Oh man, this is great. I'm loving this. I think this is such value, and I love that this is, you're walking this talk right now with your current team, with the work that you're doing at Spins. It's fresh, and you could tell it's fresh. And I think, with these ideas of leadership and building teams, I think there's so much out there, but to be able to have a leader express those ideas and how they're actually going about it and building teams, building organizations, it gives it a fresh impact, right? So,
Rahul, the other thing that I also, and I think more and more we are getting to this, and and I give a lot of credit to our product and engineering teams for this, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you're coming from tech environments, is that things can get complex very quickly. Right. Code is complex, product requirements can get very complicated as well. And we challenge ourselves in keeping things simple. Mm-hmm. And I think that at times we all, as leaders generally, can make things complicated when it really shouldn't be.
Right.
And so, it is, the onus is on us to ensure that are we keeping things simple?
Yeah.
Whenever you go and ask and speak with any customers, the first thing coming out of all customers usually, don't tell me about the bells and whistles. I appreciate that you're focused on the bells and whistles. Just go back and solve for the things that we talked about.
Yep.
Because the things that I need make my life easier here. Yeah. Because if you can do this, we are home free for now. And then let's talk about the bells and whistles. And we get to in love with the future, which is great. And we want to be, I'm not criticizing that by any means.
Right.
What I'm saying is that, so when it is up to us to remind ourselves, because business is complex. Mm-hmm. We are solving for complexities that are not easily able to come up with a solution like this, as much as we all want to keep moving and advance. So when we try to make sure that we are focused on keeping things simple, but we are trying to also remove complexities, mm-hmm. For me as a leader, you get to see the team engagement even further getting enhanced, because the teams are also realizing we've got some big problems to solve, but let's make sure that if it's simple and there are small key milestones being achieved, that in itself is also a great success mark.
Totally.
It doesn't always have to be that we need the entire thing to be solved because sometimes time and limited resources will not allow you to do that. Then it is up to you to achieve those smaller milestones. And as long as you are removing complexity, that in itself is also achieving success.
Yeah, I mean, that we're coming full circle here with this conversation. I think that's, how do you, there's that analogy about how do you eat an elephant? Well, one piece at a time. And I think what a great insight you just offered there. I think in a time where things are coming at us a million miles an hour and we have more information and data at our fingertips like never before, let's break things down into small pieces and steps and mile markers. And that's how we measure success. We're not going to get from point A to point Z in one stride. There's B, there's C, there's D. And that goes back to leadership. That goes back to how a leader needs to be able, more now than ever before, take complex ideas and make them simple and create a pathway forward to achieve them.
And deliver on them, right?
Exactly.
If you say you're going to deliver 4 things, deliver 4 things. Don't have this desire of putting a list of 28 items and then you miss the mark. It's just, it's not
ambiguous, isn't it?
It is, and it's not helping your brand. As a leader, it's not helping the team's brand because that is not going to land well or show up well at the end of the day when your customers or your peers or whatever the case is are looking at you and expecting X, but only Y is getting delivered. Less is more. And so if you start to say, this team is going to deliver 4 OKRs, stick with that, drive it to the best, achieve quality, deliver excellence, and you will start to see how well more and more then will take place while making sure, take the data, take the insights and everything, still lead with care. And you lead with care through how you are showing up. And that's an open, you could even say a declaration to all of us as leaders, because that's why we are leaders. When our teams succeed, that's why we are sitting in the chairs that we are, because that is a responsibility we have been tasked upon at the end of the day.
I love it. I think, as I mentioned before, I think this is a great way to kind of even conclude this conversation here. I want to talk about, just in concluding the conversation, just wrapping up with the importance of investing in yourself. I think, we're only going to be our teams are only going to be as good as how much as leaders we're investing in ourselves. And, and that's why I just think this is a full circle moment. I'd love to hear from you, and it'd be great for our audience just to hear, how do you invest in yourself? Whether it's books, whether it's whatever, what types of resources, what are things that you do to actively grow yourself so that you can perform at a high level in the work that you do in leading and building teams?
That's a great question, and there's so much, there is that, but I think you have to find what your style is, what is your preference. I could not code if my life depended on it. I'm not a scientist, and I find fascination in all of those. And so, even when you talked about AI, it's reading the articles that are coming through and what's being talked about. My recent, for me, is coaching is not only a passion for me, but it is an area of interest right from the executive level coaching to all the way through. So I just last year went and certified myself as an executive coach. Awesome. You've got to do what you are pursuing, because for me, I will never stop learning. I am a curious, I've been that since I was a child. And to me, there's fascination and an interest in so many things that exist. And as long as you commit to yourself, whether it is reading a book, whether it is going in, pursuing further education, whether it is attending a conference, whether it's listening to a podcast, the audience listening to this is definitely a sign that you are pursuing further investment in yourself. whether it is watching a 7-minute YouTube clip or on TikTok on how to, do DIY renovation kitchens.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is. Learning is formal, informal, and it is not only in a certain methodology or a mode. What you have to remind yourself and commit to yourself as an individual is that you will never stop learning.
That's
You
right.
will never stop being curious. That then allows you to create the path that you wish to, and you can continue to go all the way up to as formal as you wish to be and as informal as you wish to be. And I will keep this, the only one, not that there was anything positive about COVID, but one of the things that I smile about, because as we all were at home, COVID created a lot of chefs and cooks at home.
Right.
That was a beautiful part about COVID. There were so many YouTube videos. I spent a lot of time, and I started learning how to make Thai and Chinese vegan cooking by watching a lot of great YouTube chefs who are also doing the same thing. That's what I mean. And so it's what do you want to do with it, and how do you go about doing it, and keeping your interest levels across. Just don't stick to your profession, or just don't stick to the areas that you are. Expand your mind. Get out of our comfort zones, right? I think that's how you start to really allow the enrichment of life, professionally and personally, but more importantly also to keep that mind refreshed, challenged, curious, and just learning new things.
I love it. I think one of the things about, it's one thing to learn things in the chosen profession that you're in. Obviously going to school, getting an education, looking up, just specific education and training in the areas that you're working in. But there's something to say about, I know for me personally, I like to make hip hop beats and music that way, which is complete, that's so different than what I'm doing in TA. But I find something about doing the creativity of that helps me approach problems differently in the work that I do. And I think that's, it goes back to your point of always being curious. I think it's so important to be curious and to stretch yourself beyond the limitations of even your own profession and your learning, because you'll find that you have other interests that can actually be of benefit to you, not only to be an outlet, but also to be a perspective that you can take on in solving problems in the work that you do in your 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, So I think this is a great place to end. This has been such a pleasure, Tushar. There's so much. I'm going to be listening to this episode again because there's just some truth bombs that you talked about with regards to building teams, building organizations, leadership. You zoomed in and zoomed out beautifully. I think there's so much value here for our audience. And again, I just want to thank you for the time you took this afternoon, for opening up this particular location here for Spins, allowing me to graciously be here and meet with Tushar. This has been fantastic.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. It's always great to be asked to be a guest, and I hope that sometimes I feel, I don't know, why would anyone want to listen to me? So if there's been any sort of wonders that come out for anyone at the audience level, I sincerely appreciate it. Hopefully it helps. It's a journey. And my final comments on that is that we all are on this journey. It is a journey that's never going to end, but it is one that there is truly no validated book. It's trial and error, but it's always making sure that when those mistakes happen, we are humans, and they will, even as leaders, learn from it, avoid them, and keep at it, because over time, we just keep getting better and better. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you asking me.
Wonderful final remarks there. Good stuff.
Thank you.
All right.